Penelope Ferguson. I'm a certified GAPS practitioner and a registered dietitian, and I'm part of 3 of us called GAPS Guides. We have Mary Lynn Lipscomb, who is a registered nurse, certified holistic nurse, and a GAPS practitioner. She has over 30 years in healthcare experience and teaching. She lives in the Lexington, Virginia area, and she is a certified GAPS practitioner. I'm a registered dietitian. I have over 30 years in healthcare facilities. I have worked in critical care units, renal, and general dietetic practice. And as a certified GAPS practitioner, I have come back to my true roots of being with traditional foods and working for the betterment of the patient. We also have with us today Gina Phelps. Gina?
Hello. My name is Gina Phelps, and I'm in the Warrenton area, the Northern Virginia area. I am a GAPS certified practitioner, and I'm also a nutritional therapy practitioner. My scope of practice is working with families and individuals that have digestive disorders, and I've been working in the health field for over 30 years now, doing a lot of teaching, but I too, like Penelope and Mary, have come back to the part of life where it really matters, and that's putting real food and real products and staying away from processed foods. And that's what we'd like to talk to you about.
GAPS is Gut and Psychology and Physiology Syndrome. Our first episode was an introduction to GAPS, and we went over why GAPS might be affecting your life and why it is important to recognize and then to work with diet to restore your own health. Not this episode, but our next episode, we'll share details of the GAPS nutritional protocol, which foods to include in your diet, and which foods to avoid and why. We will also show you the foods that could be included in a typical day using the full GAPS diet and protocol. You'll be pleasantly surprised when you learn what foods are encouraged on your diet, and these are traditional foods, home prepared and not processed. Another episode will be similar to the third in that we will talk about what is known as the GAPS introduction diet. This is the portion of the GAPS protocol used by people who have severe food intolerances, digestive issues, or neurological problems such as autism or other neuromuscular problems. In fact, Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, the creator of the GAPS protocol, used these strategies to help her own son, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. Dr. Campbell-McBride is a medical doctor with degrees in neurology and human nutrition. She was educated in Russia and practices in the United Kingdom. Her website is gaps.me. Dr. Campbell-McBride's practice and her popularity around the world became such that she decided to come to the United States in the year 2011 and train healthcare professionals to carry out her protocols. Each of us has been trained personally by Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride. In this episode, we will be demonstrating how to make 2 powerful healing foods, stock and bone broth. The 5th episode will be about detoxification of environmental and food items. This is important in the aspect of the healing protocol. And you will learn a lot about how to avoid environmental toxins and how to gently detoxify the body in order to minimize the symptoms that often go along with detoxification, such as die-off. We will be doing a live demonstration of juicing and making what is known as a GAPS milkshake. And finally, each of your GAPS guide will prepare one of their favorite healing foods in the 6 episodes and tell you why this food is important in healing the lining of your gut, your GI tract, and rebalancing the gut flora. We hope you will tune in to each of these episodes in order to teach yourselves about GAPS and healing and sealing your gut. All right, now I'm going to go over to Gina and let her introduce our guest.
Well, our guest today is Jessica Wilbur. Hi, Jess.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Welcome.
Jessica has been a friend that we've gotten to know over the last 1.5 to 2 years, and she has a story of her GAPS journey. As a practitioner, I've had the opportunity to work with Jessica, and so we'll listen to what brought her to want to explore the GAPS diet. So Jess, could you give us some history of your family, how many in your family, and how you came to this decision of becoming a GAPS family?
Okay. Well, it is myself and my husband and my 2 children. And we started off with my son, who is my youngest, and he, from birth, had many issues, behavioral issues, sleeping issues, unexplained low iron, his bowel movements were terrible, he spit up constantly, et cetera, et cetera. He was very difficult. And we did not just start off with GAPS cold turkey, like just right away. It was definitely in phases. Of course, the first phase is trying to decide, okay, what is healthy? And is it low fat? Is it low sugar? Is it no sugar? Is it aspartame? Is it all these different things? And so we had really begun the big changes, well, what I would call the big changes, when my son was about 2, and all of his issues were just compounding. The eczema was the main one that just got worse every year, and he had it since he was an infant. And so we went gluten-free, and many of the symptoms, the behavioral symptoms and his digestion issues went away. However, his eczema never went away, and his sleeping, it was hit or miss. And so that's what then brought us to, we knew that gluten-free was good for him, but it wasn't enough, and we didn't know what the next step would be.
Alrighty, can you give us a little history of your upbringing as far as your food habits? Did you eat well in your house?
No.
No?
We had a typical, Western diet: soda, chips, cookies, tons of carbs.
And how about your husband?
Same? Yeah.
Okay.
Same. Terrible.
So when you two got married, then you brought that into your family at that point in time? Okay.
Yep.
And you had mentioned to me that your son was born a water birth at home.
Yes.
And you expected something that you didn't get.
Water birth babies are supposed to come into the world and quietly transition into their first breaths and everything. The moment he hit oxygen, he was screaming. And that is not even my midwife was, never experienced that before. So we knew something was not right from the very beginning.
And he cried until 2.5 years, until you changed your
Yes.
diet over to a gluten-free diet.
Yes, even then it was iffy. It wasn't until GAPS, we really were deep into GAPS, that his behavior really changed.
Alrighty.
So.
Well, can you tell me, so you made a decision as a family. Did you have support with your extended family and your family? Now you have a daughter too.
Yes.
And so did she also go on the GAPS diet?
Yes, we all did.
You did?
It was a
Okay.
family effort.
And was that a positive? Everybody was on board, ready to go?
Yes, I mean, it's difficult because they can't do all the same things that their other friends can do. And especially in the intro diet, I can bake some sweet things to take to birthday parties now, but on the intro you can't. And so that was difficult, them having to miss some functions, but we're past that now. And we all knew that it was just for a short season, and then, things would get easier.
Alrighty.
So.
When you what was the first step that you took? You and I had already discussed a little bit, and we had encouraged you to maybe look at it. What did you do, and what did you and your husband? What are the steps that you took?
Well, education.
Okay.
We read the book, which I would highly recommend to every person on this planet. Yes, read the book.
Right.
And we looked online at other online resources. We talked with you a lot, and researched different avenues of where are we going to get our food. We live in a place, fortunately in Virginia, that we're able to find good wholesome food and have a raw cow milk share and things like that, where I know other places you can't do that. So those were really the first steps, was educating ourselves.
And Can you tell us, were you able to use any of these other
Yes.
books here?
Yes. Internal Bliss, that cookbook right there, there are some very helpful recipes in here. Especially when it comes to a GAPS family, there's not a lot of convenience. Like convenience, it's pretty much kiss it goodbye in the beginning until I read this book, and there are some really good ideas for like snacks and things like that we can have on hand.
Right, great.
So,
very good. And you were familiar with Nourishing Traditions, using the cultured food part, the fermented food part in that one too?
Yes, that one came later. I didn't
Okay.
find that one. I didn't read that section until later. But
Okay.
but yeah, this was definitely helpful.
Great. So you've been on the diet. And I don't really want to call it a diet. It really is a lifestyle change, and you will go off of the strictness of the lifestyle change. But will you, looking back on what you've done over the last 13 months, do you see yourself following this type of pattern into the future?
Yes. I don't want to see a relapse in any of us, and especially my son.
Alrighty.
So.
Can you give us kind of take us through the introductory diet and a short period of what you did with the introductory and what changes you saw? Did you see changes right away, or
Yes.
did we have to wait a few months?
No, by the third day, of course, it was a pretty big shock to all of our bodies. I mean, the introduction diet it's hard, but within the first 3 days, actually by the third day to the dot, my son's eczema completely went away, completely gone. And then, and as we worked through the different phases, it took us a long time. It was some trials and errors with some things, and then the eczema flared up one other time, but it was like an overnight thing, and then it was gone. Whereas, before then, it was terrible. I mean, it looked like someone had scalded him. It was horrible. So.
And how about your other family, yourself, your daughter, and your husband? Were there changes in anything that was it positive or were there relapses along the way?
There are certainly relapses, and my daughter would have intermittent, strange stomach aches that didn't really make sense. She wasn't having any bowel issues or anything, so it didn't really make sense of what was happening. And it was kind of, I don't even remember when it stopped, but it was just one day we went, wait a minute, she hasn't had stomach aches in months. And so, yeah, I mean, we've seen lots of, and I'm sleeping now, where before I had terrible insomnia. My skin has dramatically cleared. Yeah, I mean, we've seen, and my son's behavior is so much better.
How can you, why do you say better? What can you give the audience that would be something, that they could understand?
Well, Reed, my son, he would have, once again, from the time of birth, he cried a lot and he spit up a lot. It was chronic to the point where he just it wasn't enjoyable to even hold him. I mean, of course we adored him and loved him dearly, but you had to have changes of clothes, with you, because he would spit up on everything. And he was a very finicky sleeper. His eczema was terrible. He had chronic gritty diarrhea that was very strange and very smelly. And he had these really strange just fits of rage that he could not control his behavior. He was very meticulous about things, but it would change from day to day. You never knew what that day was going to bring. And honestly, you were on eggshells all the time. And I'm blessed to be a stay-at-home mom. I thought I was losing my mind because I didn't know what to do with him. He was unreasonable. There was no way to reason with him.
And now, so at some point in time, you saw a change in that behavior?
Yes. When we went gluten-free, it was like 3 months to the dot that suddenly he became compliant. And you could not say it was coincidence. But then we were starting to have relapses in behavior, and his skin was continuing to grow worse. This is when we adopted the GAPS. And now he has consistent, he is just a delightful boy. He is delightful. Whereas, of course, he was delightful before, but in a different way, like the mother's love thing that covers all. But anyway, he really is delightful, and he can play with other kids now, whereas before other children didn't understand him. I didn't understand him. And so he's just reasonable now. I don't know how else to describe it.
Wonderful. At what point, how long did it take you to go from your introductory diet? The GAPS introduction is not meant to stay on for a very long amount of time. And every family and every individual really has to, there are symptoms that if you go too quickly, there'll be bowel changes or there'll be digestive issues or brain issues that you'll see. And how long did it take you to get through that introductory and then into your full GAPS?
It was about 3 months it took us to make it through.
And was it a easy, did you know exactly when to change? I mean, was it a
no.
easy decisions or?
It wasn't. There were some things you just had to take a step and just, have faith that it was going to be all right. And it was, but there were times where there was a point where there were some of us, there's 4 in my family, so my husband and I would be in one stage and my son would be at a completely different stage and my daughter was ready to move on to the next one. But so we really tried to stick with it as a family, just because for me, cooking 4 handicapped meals was not easy. And so I tried to stick with just 1 or 2. And so, but no, I mean, it's a challenge. It's definitely the GAPS intro challenge.
Alrighty. So 3 months, you're on full GAPS at that point. So life became wonderful, changed. Everything was perfect.
No.
No.
I mean, we all felt better. My husband seems to be the only one that has not thrived as well as the rest of us, and we introduced for him not that long ago. Actually, he eats about a half a cup of rice a day, and he feels so much better.
Right. And what were some of the symptoms that if you can share with us a little bit what he was feeling?
Weight loss, and just feeling tired all the time. He has a strange rash on his chest that just wasn't going away, and so we were just wondering, shouldn't GAPS be taking care of this, or does he need something extra? So. And some swollen joints and things like that.
Okay. So he's still working towards that now.
Yeah, and that's the thing to remember. This is not, you can go through this protocol and it's 1.5 to 2 years, but with kids, they heal so much faster. Whereas us adults, I mean, I have 27 years of damage that I'm repairing. He has 26 years of damage, whereas my son had, 3, 4, will heal so much faster than us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, can you tell us, part of the GAPS protocol is using obviously the diet changes, but it's also using supplementation if necessary. Did you do any supplementation with your family?
Yes, we did we are currently on the fermented cod liver oil and probiotics.
And
the
probiotics.
Okay,
great. And did you see any changes for, was that a positive? Could you tell some changes using that? Yes,
I could definitely tell. The cod liver oil, maybe not quite as much, but the probiotics, definitely we noticed a difference in our digestion.
Okay, great. And also the detoxification. What types of things did you do for your family using the detox?
We took detox baths every night, and we've slacked off a little on that, but we're trying to kick that back up. In the summertime, it's hard to take hot baths every night.
Right.
But no, we did baking soda, apple cider vinegar, Epsom salts, and seaweed powder.
Oh, attractive.
It was like a pond and smelled like one too. But my skin was so silky smooth when we were done. So anyway, that's what we did.
Wonderful, very good. Now, again, this is 13 months into this. Can you give us an idea of what you do? I know that you've made comments that your crock pot works all the time.
All the time.
Can you give us an idea of what a breakfast looks like for you as a family now, not on a full GAPS, on the full GAPS, and then what lunch looks like and kind of how you plan.
Sure.
And then I'd like also, I know you have some ideas on where you actually sourced your food from that would be helpful for our viewers.
Okay. Well, first thing, part of the education process before we even started the diet was looking around to where the deals are, and you want good food. I mean, you're not looking for just conventional, chickens or whatever. So we wanted a good source of pastured organic meats and organic vegetables and things like that at the best price. And so we did that, and probably, you pretty much kiss breakfast, like typical breakfast foods goodbye. I mean, there's no oatmeal, there's no cereal, there's no nothing like that. So sometimes we have pot roast for breakfast because it's so much easier. It cooks all night and it's ready first thing in the morning.
Your children enjoy that?
They've adjusted and they don't have a choice. It was rough. The intro was rough at first, but I mean, we've all adjusted.
Right.
It's life now.
Right.
What I do is I plan 2 meals for that day. One of them is the big one, which is breakfast, and then leftovers we have for lunch. And then we have a new one for dinner.
Okay.
That just keeps down the cooking because your sink will be full of dishes. You're making everything from scratch.
Okay.
But I mean, it's good. It's delicious. We might add something a little different at lunchtime, like a dollop of sour cream, some avocado, or something like, just to make it different, you know, so it's not the exact same thing what we had for breakfast.
Right.
So that's our typical.
Okay. And then you said you were trying to source some pastured foods. Were you shopping grocery stores, farmers markets? What type of things are available in your area for you?
Yes. Well, we do. I do grocery shopping. I mean, I go to the grocery store for most of our needs. I mean, I have a pretty big garden at home. We will be raising our own meat animals this upcoming year, and so our meat source is going to be very local. And our milk, you know, we get locally from a farm.
And is that regular milk, grocery store milk? Or?
No, raw. We are very fortunate to be able to have access to a raw milk share. So, and that has done wonderful. And we did that before we even started GAPS, actually. So we saw a lot of the benefits from that.
Alrighty. Penelope and I referred to natural traditional foods. Can you give us an idea of some of the cultured or fermented foods that you've incorporated into your diet?
Yes, we have made pickles that we have lacto-fermented. We have sauerkraut made with cabbage and carrots and garlic and ginger. It really is delicious. And we've had fermented beets, and we drink kombucha and kefir water. And
can you give our audience a little? Those may be new terms to them. Can you share a little bit about what those are?
Yes, kombucha is a fermented black tea. It's my children's soda. You can add juice to it for a second ferment, makes it really, really fizzy and delicious. You can make it in all kinds of flavors. The kefir water has its own specific bacteria, I guess you call, or a yeast culture, and that's really good too, just by itself. Or you can add flavors to it, or fruit, or something like that. What were some of the other ones? The sauerkraut was the cultured cabbage.
Right. Are you doing any fermented dairy?
Yes, we culture all of our dairy.
Okay.
Sour cream, I make my own sour cream. Creme fraiche is pretty much the same thing. Yogurt and I think that's pretty much all the dairy.
And is it something that you use every single day? It's part of your diet?
For the most part, yeah. For the most part.
Okay, great. Wonderful. And that's part of the diet, as far as there's different steps, but these healthy traditional foods go in. And we talked about, Penelope referred to healing and sealing the gut lining, and these foods are really important. But once the lining is starting to heal again, we want to add in the bacteria and the microbiota that goes in there and starts bringing in the right kinds of microorganisms, as opposed to the ones that are actually making sick and making constipation and making diarrhea and causing those types of issues. Very good. Alrighty, is there any, I guess, at this point, can you give us an idea of any pros, if you're talking to our audience, pros and cons?
Yes. So I do have a list of pros and cons that I had made that I feel like everybody should know. I'll start with my first one, pros. My son's eczema is gone, and it was there since he was an infant. So clearly it came from me and my husband. So these things that he's been suffering with, I mean, who knows what his insides were like at that point, but it's gone. And this is the first winter of his entire life that he has not had eczema. And at one point it was becoming a misery for him, and it isn't any longer. Meal times are no longer stressful. In the past, part of my son's rage was every meal, well, mostly dinner, was so stressful. We just wanted it over because he was just impossible. He fussed about everything. Our digestion has greatly improved. We're able to counsel others and encourage others with our testimony. We actually have a little allergen-friendly ministry of sorts at a local church where many people have been blessed by our efforts in trying to provide, harvest parties and Christmas parties and things, provide things for the public that they can come and be safe and eat and not have to worry about those things. Some of the cons, another thing was a pro, I'm no longer suffering from insomnia. I'm a human being again. And my kids are thriving and doing very well. My skin has cleared up significantly, my son's skin and mine. Some of the cons, most friends and families don't understand, and that's a very, very difficult thing. But we do have 2 friends in particular that really have embraced us and have really helped us a lot and have actually cooked meals for us, which is, they have no idea how much that means. Food is very rarely convenient. You really have to make everything. So I stress a lot, cook in bulk and just stock up what you can and have snacks on hand, which is not easy, but it is possible. You have to be super organized, which for some people is really hard. My husband's rash didn't go away. He did not thrive as well on the strict GAPS diet. He is still following it. However, he does have his half a cup of rice a day, and that's enough for him. And so he's following everything except for that, and he does feel so much better now. And doctors think it's foolishness. I haven't met very many doctors that have really agreed with what we're doing, so that's very hard and stressful too, and you feel like you're a bad mom, Sometimes there are still strange bouts of digestion issues that we can't seem to explain. The stress level is high because you have to cook everything. I mean, it's a whole lifestyle adjustment change. Vacationing is a bit more difficult. I mean, just all those things that comes with having to just eat completely different.
So if you could leave us with one positive thing, what would you like to share with us today?
That I believe that every person with an open mind should read this book, because I think that they will be opened up to a whole new world of what their lives could be like, and
Wonderful.
Not just their lives, but their children's lives. So.
Wonderful. Well, Jessica, thank you so much for sharing with us today. It was a wonderful time, just flew right by. I'd like to thank the viewing audience today for watching our episode. You can contact us at gapsguides@gmail.com or gaps.me. And we certainly look forward to seeing you in our future episodes of the GAPS Guides. Thank you so much.